I am going to create something beachy, some kind of a beachy scene for Darla G's daughter Amanda. I think it's her daughter. I should probably reread that. Anyhow, I'm waiting for this to dry. All I did was slap on a coat of gesso and a little bit of really light, let's see, pearl paint in a blue color. What is it? Jet stream blue. And then a little bit of gold, just plain old gold metallic, on the bottom for the sand. So far, that's all I've done. Just waiting for that to dry, but I'm playing around with some of these stamps that I'd like to put on here. Although I might pop up some three-dimensionally, I'm just kind of playing with it and doing it as a sort of tutorial as I go. And I'm going to do these on some of this paper with stays on, so that I can like Mod Podge or a liquid matte. I think I'm going to use this matte medium and put them on so that I'm not actually stamping right on there, because I want the image to look kind of crisp for most of them. So I'm going to use stays on. I'm just going to ink up my stamps and I'm going to stamp them right on here. We'll see how this turns out. I may add some more ink to my stays on pad if this isn't wet enough, because I want it to be really stark black. This is not really the best place to be stamping. I should probably have my little jelly pad thing underneath here, but I'm happy with that. That turned out really well. I'm going to clean these later because I just want to get all these stamped as I go. We'll probably only use one boat, but I may do more than one of those tree sets. I'm not sure yet. But I'm going to do a couple just in advance, just in case I decide that that was really cool and it's something I want to repeat. Notice how I didn't pick out a really super perfect piece of this paper, and it's turning out just fine. So if you're worried that all you have is all this crumpled up stuff because people have used it for gifts, it's not a problem. You can still use it. One more boat. Even though I'm positive I'm only going to use one boat. You can always save these and use them for later on other projects too, so it doesn't hurt to do more than one. The crab is cute, huh? And I've got this sentiment. Not sure I want it in black, but I'm going to make one just in case, so I don't have to come back and do it again. And I don't like the way the end turned out, so I'm going to try that one more time. Close enough. Although my F didn't turn out perfect, but I'm going to go with it. Okay, to save me some time, I did the cutting out of all the pieces, save for this one. Just got a little bit closer of a cut so that there's not as much of that filmy white that's going to be around the edges once I get these glued down. I'm basically using the matte medium because I don't want these to be really shiny. And I use the stays on because that way the ink doesn't run when you do this. And if I do a decent job and spread it around thin enough, I should be able to blend in and it won't be real noticeable. This is called Learning Right Along With You tutorial, because I haven't done a whole lot of this, but I really think that we don't take enough risks sometimes. We're so worried about what people are going to think about our work that we won't do anything until we've perfected it. Well, I just just gonna do it, because otherwise we just don't learn. And maybe around there. I'm trying to save a little bit of space because I want the sentiment to go here, but I'm not sure I want it to be flat. I might pop that up somehow, but I'm not positive yet, so I think I'll put him kind of right there. It doesn't take a lot because this stuff is so thin. I probably overdid it a little bit on that. I could have done, I think, quite a bit less actually, but it turned out good. And our little crab, our little crabby friend. Yeah, I totally don't need that much. He's tiny. Tiny little spiny. There you go, buddy. Kind of cute. Let's see, do I want this to go flat or do I want it to pop up? I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on flat because I can come back in later and I can do a three-dimensional one on top of it if I don't like the way this turns out. I have found out though, if you go from the center and push out on all the sides, you get less bubbles in the middle, of course. So I would recommend that. Start in the middle and push everything out. And then soak up, all the leftover that you really didn't need. You can tell because things will stick up if it's not fully down. And the wrinkles are okay. I'm not going to get bent up a couple of little wrinkles. So there. I'm going to give this some time to dry. And I'm going to look into adding some colors and some more fun. Okay, I got these really cheap stencils at a garage sale, and I think that this edge kind of looks like clouds. So I'm going to kind of try to add some cloud-like lines, but not straight, toggle them. And I want to use my spray. And this is kind of a dark spray, so I'm hoping it won't be too overwhelming. But I covered up, see all the bears and all these funny little shapes? I covered those up as best I could close to that edge because I don't want those to show. So that would ruin the cloud image. That was way darker than I'd hoped. I'm going to soak a little of that up, I think. Especially on my tree. Soak a little up on the tree. One in the sun. Definitely need a lighter spray. At some point I will make that, but it did kind of turn out cool, didn't it? Look at the effect that's coming out of that. I like it. It's really abstract, and it does look like clouds, for sure. I'm going to dry that off, and I'll be back. And I'm thinking about some color for him and some color for the trees. I used a little bit of my, I always forget if it's Perfect Pearls or Pearl X. Mine is Pearl X. And I just add a little bit of water to a green color of Pearl X. And rinse it around. I'm using one of my really old blender pens because when they dry up I still use the nubs to do painting and stuff. And I'm just going to use that to color in these little leaves and a little bit on the tree because it's going to give it a really, not necessarily totally opaque, but enough I think that you can probably still see the lines, but it's going to be a real shiny green and it'll still stand out on top of all the other stuff that we've sprayed on here and the paint that's underneath, and it just looks cool. Sometimes you do things like this just because it looks cool. So let's see, a little bit more there. Wow, I mixed up a lot. I am going to do it on the top of the tree though too. That looks neat. And a little on these right here. Not overwhelmingly up there, just because I don't want all the branch lines in that. The more you put on, the more you can cover up those lines the less you put on, the more opaque it is, and then a little actually bordering on see-through. So you can still see the lines that are underneath. So it just depends on what kind of look you're going for. I want it to be green, but I still want to be able to see those individual lines, because that's really cool. And then I want something brown for the edge. I've got a lot of this left over, so I'll end up putting that in my, that's my art journal that I've been adding to, but I will do that in a minute. This guy, I think I could probably get away with using this funky color. It's kind of a rusty color, and it's not going to be like totally red, because I don't want it to be a funky red that's not really a real color. So let's try this. Let's see how this turns out on him. Oh, that looks really neat. Yeah, that's plenty red, don't you think? Plenty red. Some color for you, buddy. Don't know if I'm going to be able to get his little legs. That might be kind of crazy. Let's see. Maybe a little bit of a shadow in there. Cool. Yeah, he looks neat. A little bit too much there. I wish that would be. Let's see. I think I can use a wet wipe and some of that'll come off. We don't know until we try, right? Oh yeah, check it out. If you make a mistake, you can just go in and erase it. Baby wipes. They are magical. Magical for lots of different things. I got a little carried away with that claw. Outside the line. That looks good. Okay. Alright. I'm going to look for something that I can color these, well, I want to add a little color to the flowers, and I will take a gander and get back to you. Remember that old stuff that I didn't use up? This is my art journal that I have pages in here that I've done. And when I have leftover stuff, I just, you know, spread it in here. So I'm going to start adding it to this page. And when this stuff dries out, you can just respray it, re-wet it, and reactivate it. So I did have a paintbrush. Oh, there it is. I'm just going to pick up the rest of this that's left over. See how cool it looks on the black? It really stands out. I'm just going to try to use it up the rest. I've got no plans for these pages. I'm just seeing what comes of it. And I've got some of the green down here. When I can't use any more, then I put my book away and I clean up my mess. Here's a fun little tip for coloring things that is not new, but maybe new to you, is buying these cheap makeup things at the dollar store. Now, I don't wear makeup, so I'm sure I don't use this appropriately according to those standards, but I've got a couple of like golden browns and yellows that I could put down here on this sand. And I want to try that out. I'm going to try it and see what that looks like. And I'm guessing I'm going to need maybe, yeah, it's sticking a little bit. I don't want it to be overwhelming because I don't want it to cover up completely all of the gold for the sand. But maybe just blend in a little bit. And I know this stuff will come off, so when I'm done adding the touches that I want, then I will go back in and probably use some of the matte finish, the matte medium, and you know, blend it in and make it stick for sure, so it doesn't just all come wiping off, because it will. It'll all just wipe off. Do a little bit of this sandy yellow, see how that looks. It gives it a subtle, just a subtle bit of a different color in some areas. I like that. It looks different. This is really similar to using the Pearl X that I just used. So the Pearl X also needs to be set somehow. And if by smashing this in there I can kind of get it to cover up the lines of the paper that I used to put these guys on here with. That's kind of cool. Because sand really isn't all shiny and gold. Although I suppose some beaches look that way. And my husband's yelling at me if we have butter spray because he's making brownies. Hold on a second. Okay, time to tap on a little of that matte medium and see if we can't get that to stay in place where it's at. So I don't want to totally wipe this along. So I have a feeling if I, swipe it, it may just wipe it right off, and that is not. So I'm dragging a little bit, but mostly I'm tapping. So I want some of that funky, definitely the color, but some of the texture to stay with that. I don't have as much up here, so I can drag. It's giving it a dustier look, which I really like. It's not as shiny gold as it was before. I'm thinking, since this stuff is tacky, what if I just add in a little extra here and there? Especially mostly, just right on the bottom here. And then a little bit of, this might look cool. What's this? What color is this? Oh, this is kind of an antique silver and a gold mixed together. Let's see how that looks. Let's spread it on. I need a piece of paper. Darla, I hope you don't mind. This video is going to be quite long. But it's fun, because we're playing together. We're figuring stuff out, just checking it out, see how it all works out. Now, I could just leave that, even though it's embossing powder, I could just leave that. That looks cool. I like it. But I think it really does look neat. I think I'm gonna heat it and see a little bit how it turns out. Like on one corner, and then I can always choose not to fully heat it, and I could always put some matte over the top of that. So let's give it a shot. Awesome effect, guys. Awesome effect. So this stuff will continue to melt if I keep the heat on it, but some of it melts a little bit faster than the rest of it. So what I did was I melted it until it beaded up before it hits the hottest point and just melts like flat into a liquid, and I left it beaded. Now if I leave this to dry, it should keep that shape, and hopefully it won't flake off when that dries. Really cool. I'm really happy with that. That turned out neat. Okay, let's pause now. I'll clean up my mess and we'll come back with another technique. One thing you might have noticed about me already is that I don't plan out everything I'm going to do before I start. So I did have kind of an idea that I wanted to take a wet medium, like an embossing pen like this, and it's clear. It's just a clear ink. But you can draw on it and make really intricate things, and then you can totally heat set, you know, powders and stuff on top of it. But I was going to do that around the boat here and across the skyline, which would be the separation of the skyline and the water. But now that I've got this sand down here and I just really like that look, I don't want to overheat that stuff. So I'm just going to go with my Mod Podge. And one thing I don't like about Mod Podge is, though, even though it gives a really fun glossy look, it ends up sticky sometimes. But I'm just going to take that chance because I really don't want to ruin what I have down there. And this, as everyone knows, but if this is new to you, this is a glossy Mod Podge, so it will dry shiny. This is different than the matte medium that I used in that respect. That the matte medium is matte, of course. Matte meaning it doesn't dry shiny. So I'm just going to kind of go around, get a little, I'm not going to be real precise, but there's water in between back here. And then there's going to be water that comes right up onto the sandy sand line there. I forgot to turn the sound off on my computer, so just ignore it. Please. Please ignore the computer. I don't want too much of it going on there. I want it to just kind of go off the side. And then of course there's some behind here. I'm almost out of Mod Podge. I think I have another bottle of it somewhere. I'm sure I do. I don't like to run out of stuff. That's going to go straight across here. I might have gone a little high on that side, but the water's not always exactly perfect. People worry a lot about their projects and how perfect they are, and you know, it's still art. It's still, however it comes out, it's totally fine. So there. Yeah, just wait to see if after it dries, if I'm happy with how shiny that is, and if it's not blue enough, I can add some blue. But that's good enough for now. I'm using my Inktense pencils and just a brown color and one of my blender pens, and I just drew a line up each one of the stems. And I'm going to use the blender pen to activate that Inktense ink and just color that in. It's almost an orange, but it's like an orangey brown. I think I might follow up with a darker brown. Yeah, if I have one. It's more of a purple. It's kind of a black. Oh, it's bark. Let's try this one. Pardon my snappy noise. That's my gum. I should probably not be chewing gum while I'm doing this. How wooed. How very wooed of me. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And you just clean these off by rubbing them on whatever you have. Because that worked so well with the what do you call those? The gosh, you know what I'm talking about. The stems of the trees. I'm going to use my blue Inktense, and I'm hoping it'll go on top of. Yeah, it is on top of the Mod Podge. I'm not sure how well that'll stay. But I want to put it, I need a more definition between the sky and the water, because the sky and the water are definitely not the same color. So I'm going to accentuate the sky line here, a little bit darker at the top, and then a little bit lighter towards the bottom. And I'm going to use just that same blender pen And see if I can't blend that into more of a watery look. Yeah, that pulled it together pretty well, didn't it? Pretty pleased with that. I think we'll keep that. Yeah, really cool. I'm not sure if that's going to stay once it dries, so I may have to go over that again with another layer of Mod Podge, but we'll see. Not sure if you noticed or not, but I decided not to have that fun in the sun there. So all I did was gesso over the top of it. And then to kind of make this blend in a little bit, I'm going to take my spray. And I'm just going to spray it on top of, move this, on top of here. And then I'm just going to dab it on. Because I don't want that really gaudy, heavy look that I got before. Even though it all did blend in really nicely and give me a nice background. I don't want it quite that dark. But I do want that fun in the sun kind of covered up a little bit. So that'll work. And I have another stamp that I want to put on there. Because I think for a college dorm, fun in the sun is kind of boring, but make waves is a statement. So I'm going to use that instead. Now I'm going to focus on fixing this up a little bit. As you can totally see where that extra gesso was, because it makes everything matte. So I'm just taking some of that light blue that I originally painted everything with, going over the top of that with a light coat, and that way it'll look kind of shiny and blend in with the background. And not just look like a big coated matted mess in the corner. It's so light it's basically see-through, so it won't mess with all the stuff that's underneath necessarily. And hopefully the words that I'm putting on top will cover up any of the other mistake, which nobody will ever be able to tell except for you because you're watching the video. So once I get that put on top, you won't really notice it. And a little bit to cover up some of that paper. And along the skyline to make it blend in. That looks pretty good. Good as new. Alright, next thing. Some of the finishing touches I'm going to do on here, and to save time I've already done. I did stamp some of these flowers. I thought they would go well with the beach scene, and I colored a couple of them with the Inktense pencils and fussy cut them out. I do still want to do a bit of green. Let's see, like a darker green like on the leaves here. And I just used it. Yeah, I used the blending tool like I did on all the other ones and just blended it in. There's no special talent for that. But that green looks really good. Okay. So here are my two flowers and here's my words. Oh, I also went in and I matched those flowers with these, so I'm just going to finish coloring in. I'm just moving the pencil around because I've already gone in and colored these. Did a few orange ones and a few pink ones just to bring out the color in the sign. So what I added looks pretty cool. Okay, so I think I might put maybe one on the top so it hangs off a bit, and then maybe one on the side. I always say you should do things in threes, but I feel like if I add another one down here, I'm just adding too much. So I think in this case, 2 might work. But the make waves, that just doesn't stand out to me. I want to put something, I don't know, something glitzy on there? I'm not really sure. I don't know what I want to do with there. I'll come back when I figure it out. You may not be able to see it unless I get really up close, but I decided to stickle the flowers and stickle these as well. Only because that the ink tends over the top of that. I'm just going in stripes up the leaf. I'm not coloring the entire leaf because that really detracts from the pretty, I think, from the gorgeousness of the leaves or the flowers themselves. But that's gonna make them stand out a little bit more. It makes it look a little bit fancy. I'm really tempted to do it on the crab, but I just don't know. But that's gonna pull your eye to those colors, and it'll make the entire project look less washed out. Oh, I know what I was saying. Those Inktense pencils, they tend to drab it down a bit. If you notice when I'm putting on the stickles, it's making the color even more vibrant than it was, instead of making it look chalky and pasty. I changed those around. I'm not really sure how I want those to go on exactly. And I'm really toying with the idea of possibly doing something on this, but I think what I'm going to do is, I don't know, I feel like I need to do some edging. So I'm going to do a little edging on there. I'm going to keep it with the same color as the sky, basically. It will be slightly different, of course. It won't be the exact same color. But I'm okay with that. So I need a new little fuzzy thing, because that's really not the right color. Alright, this one will work. It's got kind of half blue, half purple. So I'm just going to go real lightly around the edges. I might not like this blue. If I go real lightly, I can always add another color of blue. You see, this one looks more like purple to me, although it does pull out the blue and the purple and the flowers. I'm going to go with another blue. Let's try this one. Brocade blue. It's a little bit deeper of a blue. Yeah, not really the color I wanted, but I like the way it brings out the flowers. So I think I'm going to stick with that. I have not let these dry yet, so they're still wet. I'm trying to be careful. I'm going to tuck that one underneath, I think. Yeah, that makes it stand out. Now, I'm thinking I want to make waves. I think I want to make it glossy, so it really stands out. So I'm just going to use, well, I'm going to have to stop here for a moment and do a little cleanup and change some stuff around. But then I'm going to make that glossy with just some plain clear embossing powder. Alright, so I don't burn my hand off. I'm going to use my trusty opposite tweezers, I call them, because instead of pinching to hold them closed, once you let go, it holds for you. I'm going to take kind of an inconspicuous spot on the bottom corner, because once I push this all in here, I'm using just a Versamark. Once I get that all wet down so that I can put the powder on there, there is going to be a tiny spot that doesn't get embossed because this is going to be resting on it. So I just try to pick the most inconspicuous spot as I can. And then dust the entire thing with the powder. Tap it off. Tap it off is important so it doesn't blow around everywhere. And then just heat it up. And I'm going to move this out of the way because we do not want that powder all over God's green earth. That would just be awful. So you can fast forward this part if you want. And I'm going to take a little bit of powder, and I'm going to put it on the bottom. And I'm going to use that powder to set the bottom. And then I'm going to use my trusty opposite tweezers. 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 I'm going to Now that made the entire thing shiny, but if you could see what I could see, you could see all the little pock marks, because it never really fully covers the whole thing on the first try. And that's actually kind of a cool texture. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my tweezers off and I'm going to finish heating that one little spot. And you probably cannot see it, but there's a teeny tiny inconspicuous mark right there that didn't get, and I could fix that, but I'm not gonna, because, you know, as an artist, we're the ones that see all these minuscule mistakes and no one else does. So that's the type of thing that I let go. If you can let that type of stuff go too, your art will be a lot more fun and a lot less frustrating. So yeah, these are kind of peeling off a bit, so I'm going to heat those just a little bit more, the sand on the bottom. So as you can see, they're kind of rolling around. Scared myself. I touched the top of that thing and it vibrated and freaked me out. Okay, hopefully that's enough. I don't want to lose that cool texture, and I don't want it to be one big flat gold bar at the bottom, so that'll have to do. I think it'd be really cool if I gave this a little dimension. So I'm going to get out my trusty dimension tape, cut off myself a big slice-o tape, put it right in the middle. And since I am going to ship this, I think I may put an extra piece like right on the edges, just in case. I can get this stuff relatively cheap, so I don't mind using a lot of it. It's going to nestle right in there. The embossing powder actually did make that blue a lot more vibrant as well, but it's going to tie in really well with the colors of these flowers. I really want that to be on top, but I'm going to use my trusty E6000 because I don't want this coming back off. So right where I think I'm going to want it, like maybe in the middle here and up towards the top where it's going to touch, and a little bit on that part. That way when this completely dries, it will not fall off. Again, my flowers are still wet. I'm not going to sweat it. I'm just going to put them on. It'll dry. Nobody will be any the wiser. Okay, and then this little guy. E6000 up that little guy. Okay. And tuck his little thing under there. And make him be a little bit flatter. I'm going to get my stickles because I did really wipe off the center of that one. I'm really impatient crafter too. Like, I hate waiting for this stuff to dry. So I'll just add a little bit more to the center. That looks cool. You know, I think I'm going to add just a couple little dots to this guy. Makes him look like he's covered in a little bit of water. And then maybe just a little bit on the very edge. Drag it down on the sand. And that'll make a really nice border between the two. I wonder if, oh, you can't even see this. My camera tends to tip a little bit in one direction when I hang it up there sometimes, depending on if I'm paying attention to what I'm doing or not. But I'm just putting it along this edge and just using my finger to drag it down a bit to give it another little dimension right in the middle. And I'm pretty happy with that. So there you go. A cute little beachy canvas with a couple fun techniques for Amanda. Amanda, I hope you like it. If you don't like it enough to hang it in your dorm room, I totally understand. Everyone's got their own taste, but if you enjoy it, but you want to give it to someone else, or yeah, whatever. Once I give it to you, it's yours to keep. So I really do hope you like it. And that's the end, folks. So head on over to Darla G. I know there's only a couple days left in her challenge, but if you're interested, make something beachy, send it to her, get a couple entries, and see if you can't win. $50 cash, and there's 2 prizes plus a big a giveaway at the end, so it's totally worth it. Hope you like it, girls. See you next video.